Imagine sealing yourself inside a glass world, knowing you won't step outside for 2 years. No fresh air, no outside food, no resupply missions, just you, 7 other people, and a self-contained miniature version of Earth. This is the story of Biosphere 2, one of the most ambitious, controversial, and fascinating scientific experiments ever attempted. And depending on who you ask, it was either a failure, a breakthrough, or a warning. The dream: building a second Earth. In the late 1980s, businessman and philanthropist Edward Bass funded a radical idea. What if we could build a closed ecological system, a miniature Earth, where humans could survive completely cut off from the outside world? The concept wasn't just science fiction, it had real scientific goals. Study how ecosystems function in isolation. Learn how humans might survive in space. Prepare for potential life on Mars. Understand how Earth systems respond to stress. The name Biosphere 2 was intentional. Earth itself is Biosphere 1, and this massive glass and steel structure in the Arizona desert would be Biosphere 2. Construction began near Oracle, Arizona. When completed in 1991, it covered over 3 acres under glass. From the outside, it looked like a futuristic greenhouse complex, almost like something from a sci-fi movie. But inside, it was a fully engineered world. Biosphere 2 wasn't just a greenhouse. It was divided into carefully designed biomes: a tropical rainforest, a savanna grassland, a coastal fog desert, a mangrove wetland, and even a miniature ocean with a coral reef. There was also an agricultural area where food would be grown, plus living quarters for the crew. Everything had to function as a closed loop. Water would evaporate, condense, and rain again inside the structure. Waste would be composted. Plants would recycle carbon dioxide into oxygen. Nothing in, nothing out. In theory, it was a perfect self-sustaining system. In practice, things were far more complicated. On September 26, 1991, 8 people walked into Biosphere 2 and the doors were sealed behind them. They became known as the Biospherians. 4 men, 4 women, scientists, doctors, engineers, farmers. They would spend 2 full years inside, until September 1993. The world watched. This wasn't a government space agency project like NASA. It was privately funded and highly publicized. Media coverage was intense. Some called it visionary, others called it a publicity stunt. But once those doors shut, there was no turning back. At first, things went smoothly. The crew farmed crops like sweet potatoes, peanuts, rice, bananas, and beans. They tended to animals including goats and chickens. They monitored oxygen, carbon dioxide, and soil health daily. But after several months, something unexpected happened. Oxygen levels began to drop. Slowly. Quietly. By year 1, oxygen inside the dome had fallen from a normal 21% to around 14%. That's equivalent to living at about 14,000 feet above sea level. The crew experienced fatigue, difficulty concentrating, sleep disruption, shortness of breath. It felt like living on top of a mountain, without ever climbing one. Scientists later discovered that microorganisms in the soil were consuming oxygen at higher rates than predicted. Meanwhile, exposed concrete inside the structure was chemically absorbing carbon dioxide, disrupting the balance. Eventually, oxygen had to be pumped in from outside, breaking the fully closed system rule. Critics immediately labeled the experiment a failure, but the problems were just beginning. Crop yields were lower than expected. Cloudy weather reduced photosynthesis. Insect populations exploded in certain areas. Pollinating species struggled. The Biospherians were working long hours farming just to meet basic caloric needs. At times, they were consuming fewer than 1,800 calories per day while performing intense physical labor. By the end of the mission, most had lost significant weight, some over 20 pounds. Yet interestingly, medical data later showed their cholesterol levels dropped and many health markers improved, similar to modern calorie restriction studies. So while they were hungry, they were arguably metabolically healthier. Still, the psychological strain was mounting. 2 years is a long time to be isolated with the same 7 people. Conflicts developed. The crew reportedly split into factions. Communication with outside management became strained. There were disagreements about scientific priorities and leadership decisions. Unlike astronauts, the Biospherians were not part of a tightly structured government hierarchy. This was experimental, socially as much as scientifically. Living in isolation revealed something profound. Managing human relationships may be harder than managing ecosystems. In 1994, a second mission began with a new crew. But this time, internal conflicts among management escalated dramatically. There were legal disputes, leadership changes, and even an incident where former crew members broke into the facility, opening doors briefly and compromising the sealed system. The second mission ended early. Public opinion shifted. Many viewed Biosphere 2 as an expensive failure. But was it? Despite the controversy, Biosphere 2 generated valuable scientific data. Researchers learned closed ecosystems are far more complex than expected. Soil microbiology plays a massive role in atmospheric balance. Coral reefs are highly sensitive to changes in carbon dioxide. Even slight imbalances can destabilize entire systems. The oxygen crisis demonstrated how interconnected life support systems truly are. It was a miniature model of climate change. When carbon cycles shift, everything shifts. And perhaps the most important lesson, Earth's biosphere is incredibly delicate. Today, Biosphere 2 is owned and operated by the University of Arizona. It's now a research and education center studying climate change, water systems, and ecosystem responses to environmental stress. The rainforest still stands. The ocean biome still ripples. Scientists continue to run controlled experiments inside. But now, the focus isn't on sealing people inside. It's on understanding how to protect the world we already have. Was it a failure? If the goal was a perfectly sealed, self-sustaining human habitat, then yes, it fell short. But if the goal was to expose how fragile ecological balance truly is, then Biosphere 2 may have been decades ahead of its time. It showed us something uncomfortable. We don't fully understand the systems that keep us alive. And if maintaining balance inside a 3-acre glass dome is that difficult, imagine managing an entire planet. Final thought: Biosphere 2 wasn't just a scientific experiment. It was a mirror, a reminder that Earth, Biosphere 1, is a closed system too. There is no emergency oxygen tank for our planet, no outside resupply, no backup world waiting in the desert. And maybe that was the most important lesson of all.